thank you, everyone. I'm really excited to get the opportunity to talk to you about community science. It's one of my favorite topics, and we do a lot of it in Portage Park District. Is anyone familiar with Portage Park District? Does anyone live in the county? Have you ever joined us for anything?
I'm right next door in Hudson, and I should join you for more things.
I agree. Come out.
I'm next door in Talmage, and I've toured the Kent Bog and expansion before, so I really enjoy.
Nice. Well, that's exciting because the Kent Bog extension is now Kame Esker Bog Park and will be opened at the end of this year. So if you come November-ish, hopefully, you should be able to walk around a park.
Exciting.
Yeah. And I think
So is that the property across the street from the Kent Bog that I know?
yes, so there's Kent,
Oh,
the Cooperrider State Nature Preserve, most
yes.
people call it the Kent Bog. So they're the northern third, and we're the southern two-thirds of the same bog. So
Well, that's quite a triumph.
to protect the
Acquiring
bog.
that property is in part to protect the bog itself and to kind of be a roadblock of development that it could have turned another way,
It,
and
it-
and
yeah,
and maybe it done other plans would have uh, potentially damaged the bog itself.
exactly. And what's even more exciting is that our part of the bog, the southern two-thirds, now has the same protection as the state one. So they delineated it as the state. So the park will own it and operate it, but it has the same protections as the state nature preserve. So it has even heavier protections on it than just being a park. So it's really exciting. Okay, so let's get into it. If you are not familiar with this, I wanted to share our mission. So it's to conserve Portage County's natural heritage and provide opportunities for its appreciation and enjoyment. And if I asked you to pick out the most important word in there, you could probably say conserve is the big thing, right? So when you look at Portage Park District, we don't have dog parks, we don't have jungle gyms, we don't have disc golf, right? And those are all special things that people use and they have their place in society. But for our mission, we work on keeping Portage County looking like Portage County, and it's more a natural look. So that's probably one of my favorite parts of my job is I get to go out in a park and just walk in a forest or walk in a meadow, and it really it's beautiful. And then that last part is my job to provide opportunities and appreciation for its enjoyment. So you'll see a lot of QR codes through here. I thought about just putting the links in, but I put QRs just to make it maybe a little bit easier for everyone. And if you wanted to sign up for our newsletter, you can do it right there. And that way it comes out the first Thursday of every month, and that's all we email you, but it has all of the park happening. So if you wanted to drive over from Hudson or Talmadge, it tells you exactly what we're doing. And in the June newsletter, it's going to have all of the summer programs for June, July, and August. So you can see everything we're doing, and a lot ties in with community science. So when we talk about community science, um, what is it, right? You might have often heard it called citizen science, and you go back and forth. You might even hear me call it citizen science because that's how I learned it too. But community science has essentially 10 things that make it community science. But when I learned it, these were the three. So I stuck with the three for simplicity's sake. But it actively involves the community in scientific endeavors. So you don't have to have a science degree. You don't have to be a scientist in order to do good science, right? So we want everybody in the community helping with our scientific endeavors. Next, it produces a genuine outcome. So you're not just out there for a heck of it. The things you're observing and you're counting and you're surveying matter, and they go towards real science and making decisions in the community and gearing where we go next with our science. And then finally, the data is made publicly available. So all the ones that I'm going to show you, you can go on their website and see what information is there and access it, and you could use it for your decisions as well. So I picked 6, and these are 6 that Portage Park District actively engages in. There are other small ones that I may talk briefly about, but here are the big 6, and if you want to help with any of them, just let me know. I put my email on that first slide, and it'll be on the last slide as well, so feel free to reach out if any of these spark your interest. Okay, and these are in no particular order, to be honest. I put them in order of how they were in my drive. So this is what my files look like. So with Crowd Hydrology, this is exciting. It's a partnership with Akron Watershed Division of the Akron Water Supply, and it's kind of a subset of Crowd Hydrology. And if you've heard of that, that is out of the University of Buffalo. So they came up with this way to track patterns in river hydrology, right? How much water is there? How fast is it moving? How fast is it getting out of the way? And it's super simple. You don't even need to be trained, okay? So you can go to a series of these posts. It's kind of small in the picture, but it is there. You can see these posts that are all around Akron in their watershed. And it gives you the directions right there on the post. So you look at essentially a geologist ruler in the water. You see where the water level is at, and then you text that figure to a number that's on that post. And then if you get a text back saying, thank you, your data was entered. And then you can go online later and see exactly where your water has changed depending on who entered data last. So it helps us measure rivers and waterways as they go. We have two in Portage Park District. One is at the Red Fox River access, and the other one is at Booker Park in Manaway. Both of them are in Manaway. And you can do them whenever you want. I like going in the spring because it's interesting, because sometimes the water is so high when that Cuyahoga River gets up, the ruler is covered. You can't even see it. And most of the time, I can't even get to the sign the river is so high. But as you go throughout the summer, it's really interesting to see how the river changes. We do have 3 programs with Akron Watershed this summer if you want to come. They're called River Health Workshops. That's what you're going to want to look for on our Things to Do page, where we go and they give you kind of a spiel about more in detail on this. But the really fun part is that we get in the river and we look for macroinvertebrates. So you can put on your waders or your water shoes. We get in there with dip nets and seines and pull out macroinvertebrates. If you're not familiar with those, they're creatures you can see with the naked eye that don't have a backbone. So like the larva for our dragonflies or our damselflies or crayfish or stoneflies or caddisflies. And we're pulling them out, and we can use the presence of those organisms to judge how healthy our waterways are. So it's a really good time if you want to come hang out for that. Is anyone a birder? Anyone like birds? Yeah, cool. I just went the last 2 Sundays up to the biggest week in birding up, in Ottawa National Park. And I saw some cool things, but if you want to come see things locally, this is one of the events you can do. So it's called the Christmas Bird Count. The span is from December 14th to January 5th, and different organizations pick out different days throughout that time span. So as we get closer, we'll release our date, and you can sign up on our website to come out with us. Or if you're an avid birder, you can go and take your own section of this 15-mile radius circle. But it's through the National Audubon Society, and all you do is count birds. That's it. It's a wonderful day of birding. It's a bit of a bummer when it rains, but most of the time it's a beautiful day out to get and count your birds, right? Because I know a lot migrate, and we're really excited about warbler migration right now, but many birds that are beautiful and interesting stay here throughout the winter, and it's exciting to see them there. So the whole purpose of that is to survey the bird populations. And this is actually our oldest citizen science project for birds in the country, because around the year 1900s, it used to be standard for people to go out and to hunt things around Christmas time. And then there was a man named Frank Chapman who thought, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't hunt them. We should go and count them. And that's how the Christmas bird count started, by just having that idea that maybe counting would be better. And it stayed on for 125 years we just did. Okay, butterfly transect surveys. This is our newest one. We just started it in April, and it's been really exciting so far. So this is a partnership between the Cleveland Museum of Natural History and the Ohio Lepidopterist. If you haven't looked at them, they're a good community for butterflies and moths, but this specifically is for counting butterflies. And we know with climate change, sorry, my dogs are barking, habitat degradation, and habitat fragmentation, that butterfly populations are down. So this allows us to go out and count the butterflies and how many of each species are there. This is our most time-consuming one. It's once a week from April 1st to October 31st, and we do it every Friday, and that seems to work well, but we're actively training volunteers so that, like, if I have a program, like today I had a program with 75 fourth graders. So if I can't be there, we need trusted volunteers to be able to continue on and do the count. So we're trying to be pretty flexible and maybe change the time or the date around, maybe not always on a Friday. But that top QR code is for the Cleveland Museum of Natural History if you want to read about it. But if you're interested in coming out with us and counting butterflies, and mind you, you don't have to do it every Friday. I'm just inviting you to come do it maybe one Friday and see if you like it. And then come whenever you want. But that second one is just an interest form, and then I'll add you to the email list, and hopefully you'll come join us. I should say, going into this can be pretty intimidating because people say, you know, I might know a monarch or a tiger swallowtail, but I don't know anything else. And that's perfectly fine. You don't have to know how to identify any of the butterflies. But what we want is for people to give a description of them. And if anyone is a photographer or even a novice photographer, it's a great way to practice that skill. Because if you can get a picture of it, we can take it back and study that picture later, or even better, post it to iNaturalist, if you're familiar with that website, and get identification that way. So if you don't know butterflies, that's okay. You can still come count butterflies with us. Okay, this one is my pride and joy because it's the one I've been involved with the longest. It's Frogwatch USA. So it is a national organization, but what's really exciting is that the home base is right in our backyard at Akron Zoo. So if we have any questions, you know, Carrie is right there at the zoo, and, you know, she knows all the frogs in her area, so we get really great feedback from them. But the whole purpose of this is to survey the frog and toad calls so that we can monitor not only those amphibian populations, but also wetland health, right? Because, you know, amphibians, they have that porous skin, so they can take in nutrients, and they're really, or not nutrients, but everything, right? And they're really good bioindicators. So if something is off in the wetland, then that's going to show in our amphibian populations. So if you come out, usually we do our training in early February because the season starts from February all the way through August. And I teach you all 11 frog and toad calls of Portage County. And it's a really cool party trick. Your friends won't think you're nerdy at all, but I'm guessing if you're a native plant enthusiast, you're okay with being called a nerd anyway. But it's a really good time. So if you want to come learn them, that's all you do. So you go out, you have a 2-minute acclimation period where you just, you know, get used to being out in that setting and have whatever organisms are around, but you get used to you being there. And then you listen for 3 minutes. And you can record the sounds, but if you know them, you can just listen and you write down what you're hearing. So for 5 minutes, once a month, for 6 months, that's not a bad deal. And this is a really good, this and the butterfly transect surveys, I like to call them fair weather citizen science because, you know, it can't be under 60 degrees, it can't be raining too hard, it can't be too windy. So you don't have to go out in the sleet and the snow because, you know, these guys won't be out there either. So if you're interested, look for Frogwatch USA training on our website, and you can join us next year. The other thing I should say about this, we do have some spots in the park we would like monitored, but if you have wetlands in your own backyard and you hear frogs calling, you can sit on your deck in the middle of summer with a glass of wine and do your frog call. It's a really good way to contribute to community science without really committing a lot of time. So it's a good deal. This one, let's see, I think we're on our 3rd year now with the Ohio Crane Count. It's through the Ohio Bird Conservation Initiative and through the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. And me, along with 2 of our other educators through Portage Park Districts, are the coordinators for Portage County. If you live in a different county, you can look on their website and see who your coordinators are. But you're more than welcome to email us and we'll find you a spot. But one Saturday in April, I think maybe it was the 2nd Saturday in April this year, you go out from 6:30 to 8:30 a.m. And I know that doesn't sound, you know, too appealing to people that aren't morning people, but that's the best time to see the birds. And, you know, you can go out and get breakfast with your group after. But all you do is it's a driving survey. So you drive around your square that you're assigned, looking and listening for sandhill cranes. Has anyone ever seen a sandhill crane? Did you know we had sandhill cranes in Ohio? Anybody?
I think we saw them at LCC, I think 2 years ago.
Awesome.
Yeah, we did that. So LCC, Lorraine County Community College, is really close to Sandy Ridge, Lorraine County Metro Parks,
Okay.
and they're known to be in the parks, but they, they travel around.
They do. Yeah. And what's wonderful is their populations are increasing. And that's kind of the point of the survey, is to see how well they're doing. And so far we're seeing an upward trend. It's interesting when I go, my parents live in Florida now. And when I go to visit them, the sandhill cranes walk around there like the deer walk around here. You'll just go and they'll be on a street corner by a gas station. But around here, they're a little bit more elusive. In some parts of the state, there are big sections of them. If you've ever been to Shreve, Ohio, which is around Worcester, I went to the Shreve Migration Sensation, which is also a big birding event for waterfowl. I was at a specific spot just off the side of the road and I counted over 100 of them. So it's really exciting to see that many big birds. And if you haven't heard them before, I suggest looking up the call of a sandhill crane, because if you want to hear what you think the dinosaurs sounded like, this is where you go. They're incredible creatures. So that's just a one day of the year count. So if you want to help us with that, let me know. And of course, you can get involved in your own county as well. So stream quality monitoring is very similar to our hydro watch. It just you don't monitor the hydrology as much. This is specifically for monitoring macroinvertebrates. So remember, they're the small creatures without a backbone. If you can see a little bit in this picture, that lighter thing with the two poles on the end is called a seine, and you put it in the riffles of a stream or a river, and you let it collect whatever is flowing by, okay? And when you pull them up, you can sift through it and try to find those macroinvertebrates, and there's a sheet you'll fill out, and it will give you a stream quality index and tell you how healthy the water is. And obviously, we have the Upper Cuyahoga, which is the state scenic river. So usually we find some good things in there. And if you wanted to become a volunteer for this, you can do a volunteer training through scenic rivers. And then I think you monitor a certain river that you're assigned 3 times a year. If you wanted to get trained, we're actually partnering with them. So you'll have to check the website for the date. It's either June or July 18th. I want to say June. But we're actually going to partner with them at Portage Park in Manaway, so that you can see exactly what they're doing when they pull these things out of the river. Okay. And then if you wanted other resources, the things I showed you are pretty local, but there's citizen science that you can contribute to, which might be nationwide or even worldwide. So citizenscience.gov is a good resource. I've heard that the Chicago Botanic Garden has a Citizen Science Academy, which is for classroom teachers, where it kind of is this intensive couple-day program where they teach you how to appropriately use citizen science in the classroom. And then National Geographic is also a good one. They have a lot of their own citizen science. There's an app that I've used before called Marine Debris Tracker. So if you're ever on a walk and picking up garbage, you can actually track where and what you picked up, and that helps them decide, what trash is out there, where it is, and then how to best deal with it. So that's a good one through National Geographic. And then 2 citizen science programs that I didn't mention because they're kind of on your own events is Project Feeder Watch and the Great Backyard Bird Count. Both of those are through the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. And essentially, if you feed birds in your backyard, you can count them, turn in that data, and then that counts as citizen science. So I don't know about you, I like looking at birds everywhere. So whether we're doing the crane count or if I'm looking at my feeders, then, all birds are all good. Okay, I think I saved just enough time for questions, but I wanted to point out here, if you wanted to sign up for our newsletter, that's the QR code on the left. Again, it comes out the first Thursday of every month and gives you all the information about what's happening throughout the whole park district. And then if you want to look specifically on our things to do page for what's going on in the park, that's that second QR code. And it only has through May, but once that June newsletter hits, you'll see all the events June through August. So it's going to be a very, very exciting summer. And with that, I'm happy to field any questions you might have about community science. And thank you for listening. I see things in the chat. Is that where I should go?
I see one question in the chat for you, yes. From Bruce, can we do the butterfly survey at our homes?
So that is something you would have to check with the Ohio lepidopterist. From what I've learned from them, the answer is no, because they want you to walk a certain trail and you have to divide it into sections. So we're at Trail Lake Park, which is in Streetsboro, and we walk the entire loop. So I think we do a little over 1.5 miles, and that whole section is broken up into, the whole loop is broken up into 5 sections. So they want a variety of habitats, but it's, you know, it's worth a ask. So if you reach out to the Lepidoptera Society, I think all butterfly data, you know, is worthwhile data. So
Can you repeat which park you walk around in Streetsboro?
it's called Trail Lake Park.
Trail Lake Park?
Yeah, it's on Ravenna Road. It's now our second newest park. It opened during the pandemic, November of 2020, but it's 222 acres and it has a 33-acre lake in the middle of it with an ADA accessible kayak launch. So yeah, it's beautiful. So it's really good for like puppy therapy too, because everyone brings their dogs there. So if you just sit at the front table and ask people to pet their dogs,
I
it's
love
a-
those parks. You
it's
know,
a-
where it's just it's so much fun and you get to meet so many cool people that way.
It is. Look at Jessica's pictures of all those sandhills. That's incredible. It looks like they're doing their mating display too. That one in the back looks like it's hopping around.
Yeah, there was a huge amount of them. We were really surprised. We were in the prairie area seed collecting at early November, and they just suddenly were there and we were taking photos and stuff.
How special.
Mhm.
That's wonderful. Okay.
Any other questions for Holly? Anyone?
Mhm.
Well, thank you so much, Holly. Those all sound like awesome ways to get involved, and hopefully everyone checks out these resources from Portage Park District.
Yeah. And then if you want to take a picture of my email or if you just look at portageparkdistrict.org, my information is there, but I'd be happy to answer any other questions you have about any of these programs. So thank you.